Listen, guys, as if the housing market wasn't already hotter than a damn jalapeno.
Yeah.
Remen is trying to put a couple of you people back to work.
Ooh.
Okay, so if you want to become an account executive for a wholesaler, and a great one at that, Remen is here and they want to talk to you. So if you've got some experience, that would be a big one. You understand what a rate sheet looks like, and you can deal with an irate, maniacal, crazy loan officer who's pissed off that he's not getting his loan docs in time, or you're not going to honor his rate for 35 days, even though he or she just locked it for 30 days, but they're going to yell at you anyways. Remen wants to have a conversation with you.
That's right.
All you have to do is click this button right over there,
Banner,
or if you're watching this on Facebook,
up above.
right up above.
New year, new career.
All
Check it
right,
out.
so the big thing that we're talking about these days, it has to be about taxes. Taxes and how it's going to affect the mortgage and real estate industry. And we are not at a loss for the number of people with opinions that vary across the board.
Right.
We just had one that came out from the Mortgage Bankers Association, and it was quoting David Stevens, the current president, the outgoing president. Shed a tear. But there's a couple items in there that we were concerned about, because we were looking at how things were going down, and we realized that as it stands, that any tax changes that we were looking at up until this point were going to have a disproportionate negative effect on low to moderate income borrowers. We're happy to say it turns out that there's a number of things that are going to stay in, and that's going to be helpful. So from the Mortgage Bankers Association, they say that they want to thank the Senate leadership and the members of the conference committee for including key real estate and housing provisions in the final tax bill. Specifically, we are grateful for the amendment to Section 13221 as the original Senate bill offered by Senator Mike Rounds to create an exception for any item of gross income in connection to a mortgage servicing contract. So we've got income, we're going to be able to keep that deduction, which is really nice. Here's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
Again, from the NBA. Additionally, we are glad to see that the bill preserves current law by allowing homeowners to exclude up to $500,000 of a gain on a sale of a home.
Okay, we kind of knew that, though.
We did, but this is kind of a big one, though.
No, it is. No, for sure.
Now, the concern was it was $1 million, but now it's cut down to $500,000. But, I mean, wouldn't you say if you have a mortgage out there for $500,000, you're probably doing pretty good for yourself? And if you're paying interest on top of that,
I think so.
is that a big thing?
No, I don't think so.
Further, the NBA also appreciates the inclusion of the low-income housing tax credit. Okay, that's a good one, and that's going to help us. I don't know if that's going to cover our mortgage credit certificates. I believe it's going to.
Let's hope so.
Now, what they're also saying is the NBA is happy about the tax-exempt status for the private activity bonds. Now, private activity bonds, maybe you haven't heard about, but this really goes to the core of providing low and moderate income housing for folks.
Right.
So I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios. And by the way, these bonds, they affect you tax-wise on a number of different levels. Let me give you a straightforward one. So somebody wants to go build a project. You know, project's maybe a bad word. A housing complex.
Okay, a subdivision, a builder.
Okay. So what they do is they're going to take bonds. The federal government's going to go raise money, so you and me and Frank, we can all go buy bonds. Now, the bond is going to have a rate of return. The rate of return is going to be below market. So say, you know, rates right now for a builder would be at 6%. Maybe they're getting it at 2%.
Okay.
So it would behoove the it would behoove the builder to go out and take one of these private activity bonds.
Right.
They use the money, then they build the complex. Upon building the complex, they have to manage or hire a manager, but they have to set aside a number of units, a specified number of units, to be for low and moderate income borrowers.
Okay, got it.
Now, the bondholders are going to want to get paid back. So the money that is made from that builder is going to pay off his bonds. The money that's going to be received back from those who put up the money for the bonds could then be tax exempt.
Ah, gotcha.
That would be a great thing for the builder. That's a great thing for the person who bought the bond because they're getting some return on their money.
Right.
And it's great for low to moderate income folks who are living in houses.
Okay, cool.
The other way that you can look at these things is, and again, you can use these private activity bonds in a number of different ways. You can have a builder who's going to go and build on his own dime, which means he's going to finance it either himself or he or she is going to finance it through your traditional sorts, going to a bank, borrowing money.
Sure.
And then what happens is they will take the cost to build that, and they'll take these private activity bonds, and they will use that money to then repay that contractor, or the person who built these, over a 10-year period, okay? The bonds are going to be raised. It's going to be paid back by the federal government, but then again, it's also still going to be tax exempt.
Okay.
Here's the real important thing that you guys need to understand is that some of the changes, the provision that the Mortgage Bankers Association is lobbying for on our behalf is really directed towards our low and moderate income folks. Now, we've said this before, if you want to see what a country truly values, look at how it deals with its poor. And right now, we had some pretty harsh criticisms about what this tax bill looked like leading up to this point.
Right.
But it looks like at this point, they're making enough changes, at least through the Senate bill up to this point, to ensure that the people who need housing the most in this country are not going to be on the outside looking in. And for that, we could be grateful.
Right, and this would actually is the House that has passed this piece of this part so far. It's now moving to the Senate.
Excuse me, yeah.
And also it looks like they've kept in there being able to deduct up to $10,000 in property taxes, which that was, we were sketchy on that, didn't know if that was going to go through. It looks like it is. And 1031 exchanges look like they're sticking around as well, being able to buy another investment property with from the sale of an investment property, and not get taxed on that.
So the 1031 exchange that we did yesterday is going to be the one we're going to be able to do tomorrow.
It looks that way to me from what David Stevens says, but hopefully we can get Dave Stevens on an interview, maybe even tomorrow. We'll see what happens so we can get more clarity on this. But good news, in where we sit right now with the House's version that seems to be sweeping its way through the Senate. This is going to happen pretty fast.
And by the way, this is going to happen fast. And every day, every hour, there's going to be massive changes to this thing.
Yeah.
So the House has to meet the Senate bill. One of the big things that they talk about is if you have an item that is the same in a House bill and the Senate bill, you could pretty much expect that one just to be pushed through, which makes sense. So one of the big ones that we had spoken about in the past is that we've gone from you have to live in a house from 2 to 5 years up to 5 out of 8 years?
Yes, 2 out of the last 5. Now they're looking at 5 of the last 8 in order to be exempt from the taxes on a gain.
Now that's in the House and the Senate bill, which means we can in fact expect that to happen.
Right.
Now you guys really need to understand why this one is kind of a game changer for us. It's going to require people to stay in their houses for a longer period of time.
Correct.
More people are going to do this.
Sure.
I want you to think about this on your own. If you're in your house for 2 years and you're thinking, maybe I want to sell this, and you're not going to have to face a massive tax consequence, well, then you would sell the house and move on.
Sure.
And that creates activity in housing, which is good for everybody.
Yeah.
But now what they're doing is they're saying you have to stay in the house for 5 out of 8 years. So now if you're in that house for 2.5 years, you might say, I'm going to buckle down for the next 2.5 years and not move this house for 5 years.
Right.
So it can literally take the transactions that we're having in this country right now and it can cut them in half. Why this is important, it's a couple of things here. First one is, every time a house is sold and purchased, it employs people. When people buy houses, they change out their flooring, they change out their kitchen, they do a lot of things. They go to Home Depot, they get contractors. The sale of a house really equates to about $100,000 for that local community and activity. If we're going to cut that in half, which is what we're going to do, it's going to mean fewer transactions in real estate and fewer loans that are going to be written.
Right.
This is massive. The reason they're doing this is because they believe it's going to force more people to pay the capital gains, when in fact we believe it's going to force people to sit in those houses and nest for a longer period of time.
Right. And I was going to say, we know it looks like that indeed is going to go through. We just don't know if it's going to be effective come January 1, regardless if your house was in contract, in 2017 or not, or if it's going to be like, okay, well, you were in contract in 2017, so we'll let you have to be there for the last 2 of 5 years, last 2 of the last 5 years. To stay in effect for those guys. That's what we're not sure about here.
So for the people at the point of sale right now, this could become very interesting next month, because you could be in contract believing that you've satisfied the requirements of the 2 of your last 5 to where you're not going to have a tax consequence, only to find out that they changed the rules in the middle of the game, and now you could be staring down a fairly steep tax bill.
Yeah.
So these are the questions that we're facing right now, guys. As they come to us, we're going to bring them to you. They're fast, they're furious, they're happening all the time. We'll give you updates and keep you abreast of what's going on.
Stay tuned. You guys have a great day. Leave us your comments down below. Do us a favor. Forward, tag, share, and subscribe for free if you meet us for the first time. We'll catch you later here at the National Real Estate Post.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.